Hello, and welcome to Ep.4 of Season 7 of the Dualistic Unity podcast. This is going to be an interesting episode, and I say that because there's a lot of stuff that we're going to process here in a very short period of time. It's been a long journey on this podcast, and since the start of the podcast, I've been trying to communicate what my journey has been like over the last half of my life. And I've said repeatedly that it's difficult to communicate what it is that I'm trying to say and have been trying to communicate throughout the podcast. It's easy to catch glimpses of it and then to lose it. It's easy to catch glimpses of it and then think that by holding on to it, you are in fact applying it rather than simply recognizing it and moving on. And it's because what we're talking about is self-acceptance. And self-acceptance isn't a list of insights or a list of mantras. Self-acceptance is a state of being that requires no additional effort. It's actually a cessation of effort to some degree, because really all of the effort in our life comes from the resistance to who we are and what we are and what we're doing. We judge ourselves and we compare ourselves to what we think other people are doing and so on and so forth. And that's why I've often said that I've tried numerous times to start a conversation, whether it be in life coaching or in community projects that I had worked on or teaching Wing Chun or any of those things. I've tried many times to start a conversation and I've seen that conversation flourish for a while. And it's because it's easy to mistake the insight for the application. It's easy to feel like because you are having insights, that is in fact enough, when you can easily undermine your insight by making it about you. You can make it about how insightful you are, how well you're doing, how much you know versus how little you used to know. And all of that just puts you right back in the mentality that you are ultimately trying to work your way out of or learn to accept and work with a little less resistance and a little bit more clarity. And I say this because it's important to recognize that you are going to go back and forth. I do. I go back and forth all the time. The only difference for me is the fact that I went through a period of my life that was so very traumatic that it continues to stick with me. I continue to remember what it was like in my own personal hell. And that is something I don't think I'll ever lose. And it's very much the reason I appreciate not being in that hell so very much. And I want to say that because that's really what happens very often is that we will get into this conversation because we're experiencing some personal hell in our life. We don't feel like we're enough. We don't feel like we're making the right choices. We don't feel like we're in control. We're frustrated. We're resentful. We're angry. We're sad. We're going through all this stuff. And so we're like, God, I want to do something about this. And so we get into the conversation, whether it's spirituality or philosophy or self-help, whatever it might be, we get into that conversation looking to do something about it. And then we end up finding insights, and those insights point us in the direction of acceptance. And those moments of acceptance make us feel better. Not better in the way that we're used to, but that's immediately how we translate it. We compare it. That's exactly what happens. And so we end up making it about us again. And this is why I've often said the quote that philosophy is the disease for which it should be the cure. Because while this conversation can be very helpful in that it is self-dialogue, we are talking about what it is we are going through as people, it can become a distraction from what we're going through as people when it becomes about the conversation. And that's what's happened to a very large degree throughout my life. In a lot of people I've met, it's something I wrestle with all the time, every single day, because again, it's easy to take yourself seriously. And sometimes that means patting yourself on the back a little bit too much too. And so this conversation, if you're going to have it, should mean nothing about you. It should have a deep personal meaning in that it is about your experience. It's about your resistance and your acceptance. It's about your level of clarity and confusion and what you're going through and whether you can accept your emotions or you run from them. This conversation is very important. It's just not important in terms of your value. just your experience. Because as soon as it becomes about your value, you stop applying it and you start telling yourself you're applying it, which is a very different thing. So I want to get into that because this episode is going to be the last episode of season 7. And I know you're thinking to yourself, there's only been 3 episodes before this. And that's true. But this episode is about closure. This episode is about how sometimes things don't have that nice, clean resolution that you would like them to. But that doesn't mean that you can't make the most of them, learn from them, and benefit everybody in the process. So we're going to start with the biggest announcement, in my opinion, which is, of course, that Andrew is no longer going to be joining us on the Dualistic Unity podcast. And we say this with a mix of emotions because, of course, we love Andrew. He's been here since the beginning. He has been instrumental in every single thing that we have done, the retreats, the workshops, the podcasts, the groups. He's been a great friend and a valuable ally. We've really enjoyed our relationship with him, and it's going to continue on into the future. But as I was just saying, there comes a point where if you are going to take the application seriously, you have to stop valuing the conversation quite so much. And so Andrew is going to be taking a break from Dualistic Unity. He is, of course, still a co-founder, deeply involved with all of our different subsidiaries, the things that we're doing in terms of Dualistic Unity Media, Dualistic Unity Real Estate, the podcast, the books, all of these things are still happening. Andrew is still a part of the organization, but he is taking a break to focus on the application. He's taking a break to step away and have the conversation with himself instead of continuing to put pressure on himself, thinking that he had to have the conversation with you. And so that is a valuable thing that I think we all need to take in. How many times are you going out there trying to tell people your insights instead of just practicing them? Because it really is that. It's the application. The insights are great, especially if you want to wear them like a shiny badge. But if you don't apply them, they go nowhere. And you end up just running in circles, convincing yourself that you're changing while really you're staying the same. As Krishnamurti used to say, you're just redecorating the prison walls. And so we encourage you, step away from the conversation, step into your life. This is something that we saw a lot, especially in terms of community members who would then only connect to other community members. And this was never meant to be a community. And we've said this explicitly so many times that this was meant to be a discussion for you to benefit from and apply in your life, not to go and look for other people who are having the exact same discussion. Where's the challenge in that? Where's the application in that? Stop looking for an echo chamber. Go and apply it in your day-to-day life. Go and talk to the people you don't get along with. Go and face the people you don't want to see. Go and deal with the day as it is instead of looking for somewhere to escape into some pleasant ideal that takes you farther and farther away from the acceptance that you truly want to experience.
So it is certainly a surprise that we find ourselves here, in my opinion, because I certainly had my own, which I thought were realistic expectations for where the conversation was going and how I was contributing and where I thought things were going to go from there. But life, or existence or this moment reminds me that I don't know and that I don't need to know, but that I can acknowledge what is happening. And at this moment, Andrew is taking a break and taking a step away from being directly involved because his life is the bigger priority, as all of our lives should be the biggest priority to us. And I know certainly from my own experiences, a lot of my frustration came from expecting people to prioritize my life more than theirs, or to live for me, or to live, in a way that I deemed appropriate or in the way that I liked. But, if life was just an endless stream of things I liked, I think it wouldn't be as meaningful. And I do think that for many years of my life, I've confused meaning with value. And, things that I thought were meaning, they needed to be also considered valuable to other people. But there are so many moments in my life that I still am impacted by that were incredibly meaningful to me. But on paper, they're not technically valuable. They're not generating profit. They're not generating respect and power and esteem and influence. It's just, but it's still incredibly meaningful to me because my life is the one experience that I am always in creating, experiencing, and so although it may not be valuable in terms of typical, standards of money and power and respect and those things that we consider valuable, my life is still incredibly meaningful. And so are these moments and so is this conversation. But being a being in the conversation isn't the point of my life. And it shouldn't be the point of yours. And so we are just reminding ourselves in this conversation that this is a self dialogue in the same way that we attempted to do the self guided stretching. We tried to have our Patreon members joining us every Sunday for a self guided stretching, and it didn't seem to catch, because I think we're so used to being told what to do and how to do it and where you should move your leg, even though the instructor has no idea what it feels like to move your leg or to be in that position. But they're telling you because they're going based on what they're feeling. And so I really liked our attempt to try to remind people that your life is self-guided. Your experiences are self-created. Yes, there are things that influence you, but at the end of the day, at the end of each moment, it is you are the final judge as to whether that moment is something that aligns or doesn't align or upsets or frustrates. You are the final judge because you are the first person and the last person to give an opinion that actually has impact, not just influence, because other people can share their opinions and that does influence you, but it doesn't have the same impact of your own opinion on your own life. And as much as people can tell you the things you want to hear or tell you the things that you don't want to hear, it's up to you what you end up doing with that. And so it's so interesting that so many times in our culture and in our phrases, we give that our agency to other people. And then we get upset when they choose something that we wouldn't choose. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't you made the choice to not choose. So when someone else makes a choice for you in that space that you created, it just seems nonsensical to be upset because not speaking up and not choosing is a choice. And so really we always have the agency to make choices in our lives, but you have to live with those choices, and people don't need to make you feel better, but even if they tried, it still wouldn't eliminate the a judgment and the opinion that you start and end your moments with. Everything else in the middle is just a smaller piece, in my opinion. And it's hard to describe this in words because I'm trying to pick words that have meaning to me, but those words don't have the same value to you. And so it's hard for me to describe the way that it feels to live in my life to people that are living a life that I'll never know. And I don't need to, but it certainly feels like it's less combative and less surprising when I'm at least honest for where my life is as a result of the choices that I made as a result, that were influenced by other people, but I still made that choice. And so I have to live with those. And so it feels like a mixed bag, this episode, this day, this moment. I guess I can't declare the whole day is anything, but at least in this moment, it feels like a mixed bag.
Well, and I think you said something there that I want to touch on, especially the words I think you used were, I have to live with those. And I think that is very much the misunderstanding that a lot of people have when they start getting into conversations about spirituality or philosophy, because it's very easy to make them an ideal. What it's going to do is change my life. It's going to provide me with enlightenment, which sounds incredible, right? But the reality is that the enlightenment that's being discussed from a state of mind that understands it has nothing to do with escapism and everything to do with acceptance, everything to do with taking life as it is rather than making it something else. And it's difficult because it takes a leap of faith to abandon that path of making yourself and your life something else. to finally come to a state of acceptance where you realize you've never had a choice. You're always doing that. You're always making choices. It's just that there's this layer on top where there's a narrative. Now you're making choices for a reason. Now you're making choices because of your environment. Now you're making choices, for all these justifications instead of because you are choice. Your life is choice. That's what you are. That is the responsibility that goes with existing. All of your choices have an impact. They all influence your life and the life of everything around you. So it's important to take that in, but it's living with it. And I want to bring this up because a lot of times in the conversations we've had previously in the groups, and in fact, the one-on-ones that I used to offer via the website, the conversations always revolved around, I feel really terrible about this, and I want to feel better. And it could be a decision that they made previously, or somebody that they might have hurt through selfishness or something like that, and they're feeling guilty, or they're feeling resentful, or they're feeling frustrated, or feeling any of those things. Now, the feeling itself is the educational part. That's the part that sucks. And I think the part that none of us really want to hear. Like, if you treat somebody badly and then you feel guilty about that, feel that guilt. I mean that. Feel it. Let it cycle. Sure, remind yourself, it's not as bad as you think it is. You remind yourself you're not the person that you're thinking about. Remind yourself you're judging yourself overly harshly. Remind yourself all of that while you feel guilty. While you feel guilty. And the reason is because that guilt, that feeling is real to you based on the choices you've made in terms of what you do and how you look at yourself. That feeling is real and it's informing you, and it's going to inform you so you don't treat somebody else like that. But instead of feeling it and letting it have its impact so that way we can grow as a result, we try to escape. We try to lessen the impact. We try to shrug off the impact. We try to find therapy or philosophy or a spiritual path that's going to help us avoid the impact. But it's the impact that helps us grow up, and the impact that helps us not make the same boneheaded decision again. That's the point of the feeling. But if you're not willing to feel the feeling, then again, you're just spinning in circles, going nowhere. And I've had numerous examples of this recently. Somebody who came out to my birthday last year from the community, once again, and this is why we're addressing this, there is a toxicity that underlies this group mentality where we're all talking about the same thing instead of just being real. And so this person came to my birthday last year. They made the entire event about them as often as they could, to the point where I actually had to say, I'm really not appreciating this. And then there was no accountability whatsoever. And so I stopped talking to them for a year. I get a message recently. I've been thinking about it. I miss the universal you, the eternal you, the one that I feel is there for me, and I know that you hurt me on your birthday, but I just wanted to reach out to self-soothe. And that's basically all it was is, hi, I was feeling guilty about how I treated you. And so now I've turned it into a way to be a victim. So that way you can help me feel better. And that's how easy it is to put yourself first. I had another person reach out last week to tell me, hey, just wanted to contact you again on your birthday, because I just celebrated a birthday, to let you know I've been holding things against you for a year. And this was somebody I thought was a friend, somebody I thought we were good with. They were also at my birthday last year, but apparently for a year they've been holding something against me, which they admit had nothing to do with me, which is kind of funny in the message. And so immediately you could look at the message and go, whoa, that's really well intentioned. They just wanted to let me know that they're not really judging me anymore. I didn't know they were judging me. The fact is that it had nothing to do with me and everything to do with the fact that they were feeling guilty and wanted to self-soothe. And so they had to let me know and apologize. So that way I can say, oh, it's okay. And then they can move on with their life and not learn from the lessons. Don't fucking vilify people based on bullshit. It's really simple. And why are you vilifying people based on bullshit? Because you want to feel better. Because you're thinking about yourself and dragging your ass down. And so you need a target. You need a scapegoat. You need some kind of a distraction from the feeling that would otherwise educate you. And so it's a really interesting thing to try and practice because, on the one hand, it's all about you, your experience. On the other hand, it's not about you, the story you're telling yourself, because your story is just another attempt at control over the experience because you don't like it. You don't like it. You'd rather it did something else. You're basically still doing what we've always done since children, throwing a tantrum, trying to avoid responsibility, trying to take the easy way out. It's all the same stuff. And the alternative to that is facing life and recognizing that you can do a number of things with each and every moment. You can drag yourself down, or you can try and lift yourself up, which sadly enough is also a way of dragging yourself down because you are still not just being. And if you're being, then all of this shit just disappears. And that's what's unsatisfying about it. There's no inner narrative. You understand? Like you're just sitting in the coffee shop, and rather than thinking to yourself, oh, that person just gave me a side look. I don't know what they're thinking about me. You just don't. You just don't have that thought because it doesn't fucking matter and you don't know. That's it. It doesn't fucking matter and you don't know. Now you can go and pay for therapy for years just to come to the point where you're eventually going to recognize it doesn't fucking matter and you don't fucking know. Or you can just practice it each and every time you get the temptation to think it's about the person in your head because it's not. It's just about the experience that you're having right now. You have no choice but to translate it through the person in your head. And what I mean is that you're going to feel guilt about you doing something to someone else. Now, is there a you and a someone else in the grand scheme? No, but that doesn't mean the interaction didn't happen. And guilt is your way of processing the information that was involved in that interaction. All of our emotions are information. We are synapses passing information back and forth through every single thing that we do. But if we don't allow ourselves to actually fully embrace the process that we're in, then we're limiting how much information we're actually passing around to everybody else. And we're debilitating the entire fucking body. And it's just because it's unpleasant, because our opinions are just another form of control. And it's not that it's bad to have opinions, but it can certainly be destructive to let your opinions govern your life and overrule your decisions. If your opinions immediately interject themselves in front of your awareness before you even have a chance to recognize it's just an opinion, that's where the practice comes in. Slow down, breathe, be self-honest. Don't go dig into another philosophy book. Don't go and practice another spiritual mantra. Just be self-honest. Stop putting the pressure on yourself. And what you will immediately start to feel is a bit more freedom. And that freedom isn't black and white. It's not like just turning on a light switch, but it is cumulative. But it really does require you to make a decision. Are you trying to feel better or are you tired of that whole game?
Yeah, it's important to feel the feelings without feeding into them. And a way that I've been doing that more lately is by journaling and not really trying to dig into why I'm feeling a feeling. I'm just trying to like create space to just feel it and write it and just see that the feeling is, it's almost like my physical way to feel the feeling is being processed. It's like I am frustrated and it's like, and I'm feeling this and it does feel like there is a sadness or a fear or being afraid and just thinking that I needed this or I expected that and then I don't really do too much with it after that. I don't go like, well, next time we're going to do better. And really, I wasn't thinking of them. I should be thinking of them. No, it's not that. It's just he's like I am pissed off and I am sad and I am scared and I am afraid and I do want to know and I do want control and I do want to feel better and I just put that on paper and then I'm like, okay, maybe a snack, maybe a walk, maybe I'd like to take a shower. Maybe I'd like to go, do a face treatment and, do a hair treatment or clip my nails or something. It's like I journal. And then I don't do a special journal prompt afterwards. I just go live. But I gave myself space and time to just feel the feelings that I was feeling because when I haven't, and I've just been trying to like go through the motions and just do the next thing because I know logically that's better. It's like I could sit here pissed off, but logically I should do some laundry and I'm like pissed and shoving things into the washer because I didn't want to be honest with where I was. I was just rushing to get to the next place where I wasn't pissed off. I was just productive. And so I've been really appreciating journaling um nowadays and I've got like five different notebooks because I don't always keep the same one and I'm just like I really just want paper. I just want to write this down. I don't need it to be the official notebook. I don't need it to be official journal time. It's just when I'm upset, I'm either typing it on a notepad on my phone or I'm journaling in one of the notebooks at my place and I'm just giving myself the space to feel the feelings without trying to figure out why or get rid of it. And then I'm not trying to forget it. I read back the journal randomly. I don't like read it in chronological order, but I just try to read like where was I the other day and just to see, what my feeling looked like from a different perspective in my head or in my life. And I've definitely been appreciating that because, so much when I was growing up, it was very much like forgive and forget. And now I'm like, there's really no one that I could forgive or need to forgive. I don't need to forgive others. I don't need to forgive myself because everybody is really doing the best that they can. And by the best, I just mean that they're here, they're alive, they're showing up, they're eating, they're driving, they're just doing things. That is their best. It's not that they're showing up and they're saying, hey, Amanda, I was really thinking about you the other day, and I just want to appreciate all of your hard work. I wonder, do you journal in your free time? Because you seem like a relaxed, enlightened person. Are you doing extra? I think you're doing extra because you deserve extra credit. And it's like it doesn't need to be anything like that. It's just people are just living a very typical day-to-day experience that's not fireworks and breakthrough therapy sessions. We're just here and that is amazing in its own way. And the opinions are also just a tool. But I like to remind myself that like things aren't waiting for my opinion. It's not like a friend of mine is waiting to get the call from me to be like, you know what, Jennifer, you are the best friend I could ever hope for. They're not waiting for my call to get that validation or that seal of approval. Like my opinion doesn't have the impact that I want it to because my opinion isn't all of a sudden the means of control. When I say that I like something, it doesn't multiply. And when I say that I don't like something, it doesn't just vanish from existence. So it's not like my opinions have the kind of impact that I want them to when I hold on to them. They're just there taking up space like everything else. And so I don't want to forget the times where I am holding on to an opinion and judging things and feeling frustrated. I don't want to forget them and I don't need to forgive myself for doing them and I don't need to forgive other people for doing that and I don't need to forget when other people do that. It's important to remember because it does increase or not increase, but I think it helps develop the sensitivity, that feeling that you can get when you read the room, right? And what does that mean? It's like, are you paying attention to what's happening or are you just paying attention to your opinion of what you think is happening and then being upset when your opinion doesn't, like a magic wand, change everything around you to all of a sudden be more of what you like, So it's I definitely am glad that we are making sure, or at least making an attempt to remember and refine our our current attempt, because I can't really speak to my future attempts, but at least in this moment, it feels like, we're showing up and that showing up right now is having this conversation. But then once this conversation is over, I'm still here. I'm still showing up. And so are you. Even when we tell a different narrative.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's it. Opinion especially, I think, is where a lot of people who come to dualistic unity for the sake of trying to escape their pain or to the sake of trying to feel better, that's where they end up feeling resentful. That's where they end up feeling frustrated. That's where they end up coming back after barely understanding what we're talking about, trying to apply it for a very short period of time and not immediately feeling a cessation of what it is to be human. They'll come back and they'll say, well, oh, I found Jesus, or, I've recently discovered that control is a thing. Like we just had a comment on Discord. At this point in my journey, I'm starting to lean on the side of the carrot and the stick are real. And I find that personally hilarious because this person only ever got involved with this conversation for the carrot of enlightenment, to avoid the stick of the pain that they were putting themselves through the entire time. And so why even come on to Discord other than to say, I've given up on everything that this conversation is really about, and you should all agree with me because that would make me feel better because I'm not feeling very good. I feel disillusioned and out of place. And so now I have to go onto Discord and take the time to once again address this because to me, the podcast, this discussion, all of it is very important. There's meaning to this to me. There's a real discussion here in the same way that if you were to walk into a math class after not understanding math and looking at everybody and saying, math is total bullshit. I've seen beyond the illusion of math. You should just come with me. It's like, great, but the people in that class are actually there to talk about math because they find it important and it has some bearing on their life. And so that's very much the same with dualistic unity. And whether it's the retreats, the discords, even the group Zooms, we have seen repeatedly this, I just want to feel better. Make me feel better. Agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, if you say something I don't like, I'm going to get that frustrated, pissed off look on my face and vanish from the community entirely because I was never really here to talk about the challenging stuff. And I was really here to avoid the challenging stuff. And we've seen that. And then those people try to idealize whoever it might be, whether it's Amanda or Andrew or me, or then they turn us into villains when we don't live up to their standard of being their fucking messiah or guru. And it's all because of the intention that went into getting involved with this conversation to begin with. And that's what we've been trying to say. Be honest about it. Be honest about it. Are you just trying to feel better? Are you trying to escape your guilt and your pain and your past trauma? Are you trying to stop judging yourself? Are you trying to do all this so you can live the life of an enlightened monk? Because if so, fuck off. Just leave. Go somewhere else. Go and listen to another podcast that's going to make you feel better and tell you exactly how to walk up that path to the mountaintop and all that for a nominal fee of however much it might cost, by all means. But I've said it before, I will continue having this conversation with as much integrity as I can for my own sake until I die because it's an important conversation. And when we do start to apply it, it's like fucking magic. But it's easy to turn that magic into an illusion by making it about you. And then it all turns into a toxic mess. This is why we've seen people in the community that we've actually had to say, never come back. Don't contact us. And it's because they've used the conversation, or rather, they've used the parts of the conversation that they could just repeat to make other people in the community feel better so they could prey upon them for whatever their needs might be, whether it be sexual or friendship or just acceptance. Because again, it's easy to take a conversation about being authentic and turn it into something that's inauthentic. And it's important we recognize that if we're going to make any headway at all in our own journeys. So, that said, we are going to wrap up this episode here. This is the last episode of season 7. It is the end of the Dualistic Unity podcast as we know it. Season 8 is coming out next week. We are going to be starting over. I believe we're actually going to start that series, Dualistic Unity Starting Over, where we're going to address the root of the conversation that we started in Scratching the Surface. We're going to go back through a lot of the things that we've covered previously with a lot of the insights that we've picked up and the lessons that we've learned along the way over the last 3 years. We're going to have some more guests on the show, and we're going to tell you a lot more about the application that we have actually been doing in the background while we haven't had a lot of episodes. The fact is our impact on Vancouver Island has been incredible. Personal relationships, business relationships. We are seeing Dualistic Unity, the organization, grow. We're seeing Island Karaoke, the brand, gain more and more recognition. We are seeing the ripple of enthusiasm in all of the people that we interact with simply for the sake of interacting with them. We're seeing that ripple grow because enthusiasm is like a fire and it does catch, but that fire can die if you make it about you. It's really just about the feeling. Why do you have to feel enthusiastic and tell people how enthusiastic you are? Think about the trade. Are you really that enthusiastic if you have to go and tell people? Just experience it. And that's the same for everything. Just experience it. We all relate. We don't have to sit here comparing how well we're all doing because we have no way of knowing that. But at least we can talk about what we're doing from a state of honesty, and then we all grow. So I just want to say, Amanda, thank you very much for being here for this episode. Thank you for joining this journey. I know Andrew is off doing his whole thing, but the fact is that you were doing something else and then you joined as the podcast kicked off. And so I appreciate your journey. I look forward to hearing more of your insights as the podcast continues on into season 8. I just wanted to say thanks so much for everything that you've done, including for the Canada Day concert and Island Karaoke and all of the other endeavors that we're going through right now. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you. One last announcement, actually, I'll pass it off to Amanda to say goodbye. We are going to be shutting down the free community Discord, and it's largely because people aren't taking it as seriously as we would prefer. They are walking into the math class and asking to talk about things that have nothing to do with math. And while I encourage you to go out there and explore things and have conversations and connect with people, this Discord, this community, our group Zooms, all of it, they are for a specific conversation. It's true that conversation covers a lot of different topics, but the integrity of the conversation is important. And so if you would like to continue to be on the Discord, it is going to be Patreon only. If you would like to come and chat with us and talk about the stuff you're going through, join us on a group Zoom. I will no longer be offering one-on-ones. And the reason is simply because people tend to turn me into an ideal in the same way that they did with Andrew and they do with Amanda. All of a sudden, I can answer all questions. As somebody said at the retreat last year, nobody really understands the darkness, Ray, but you understand it. You understand it. And that is exactly the kind of toxic shit that I am trying to avoid. And I encourage people to grow out of because we all understand it if we're honest. Just keep that in mind. So pass this over to Amanda and then we're going to wrap up.
Uh, Thank you so much, everybody, for being on this journey in this way. And, just thank you for showing up, and I'm lucky that a lot of our paths have crossed because I feel like I've grown in so many ways that I would have never expected and I couldn't have planned, and definitely would have included a lot more validation. But still, we're here now, and and we're learning, and I'm really grateful to be here. So thank you, Ray, for just, beginning this with Andrew. And thank you, Andrew, as well, for beginning that and starting things off because I still resonate with where this conversation seemed to have started from my perspective. And I'm really grateful that it has evolved. And I'm excited to see how it continues to evolve because we're always in a state of change. It's even when we get comfortable, even when things look similar, it's not identical, and we're always changing. And so I am excited to be able to just reflect on it in new and interesting and unexpected ways. So thank you all for being here with us, and I'm excited to kick off season 8, Dualistic Unity, starting over very soon.
Hell yeah. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Take care.